Part 1. The Whisper of the Hidden Flame. There is a secret that no book can fully capture. No teacher can hand over like an object. No language can reduce to words. It is a secret older than religion, deeper than philosophy, and closer than the air you are breathing right now. Mystics called it many names, but among the Sufis it has one word that carries both danger and promise. They call it rifa. What is rifa? Not information, not theories, not clever arguments. It is not the kind of knowledge that fills notebooks or earns diplomas. It is something else entirely. It is awakening. It is recognition. It is the sudden lifting of a veil you never even knew was covering your heart. One moment you are searching for truth. The next moment you realize the truth has always been searching for you. This is where the journey begins. The scholar may write pages about the color of wine, may measure its sweetness, may analyze its taste, but the Gnostic is already intoxicated before the glass is poured. That is the difference. Ordinary knowledge fills the mind with details. Rifa sets the entire being on fire. It consumes the one who thought they were learning until nothing remains but the flame itself. The paradox is brutal and beautiful. When rifa strikes, you vanish. And in that vanishing, something astonishing is revealed. It was never you who was seeking. It was always the beloved, the divine, looking through your own eyes, trying to find himself in the mirror of your being. Imagine hearing for years about a treasure hidden in a faraway land. You prepare, you pack, you train for the journey. And then, just as you take your first step, the ground beneath you cracks open, and there it is, buried under your own feet all along. That is what rifa does. It is not acquired, it is unveiled. The Sufi masters describe this unveiling as tajalli, self-disclosure, the moment God reveals not something outside you, but himself within you. It is shocking, destabilizing, and liberating all at once. Because suddenly you understand, the search was never about climbing toward heaven. Every single step you took was already happening inside the heart of the real. And this secret knowledge, this rifa, takes the shape of the heart it enters. In one person, it may become pride. In another, despair. But in the one whose heart has been polished, it shines as pure illumination. This is why the Sufis insist it cannot be taught like mathematics, psychology, or even theology. It cannot be passed from mouth to ear like ordinary wisdom. It is not second-hand. It is living fire. And once it is lit, it burns away every illusion of separation until nothing remains but God. The path, then, is not about collecting doctrines. It is about preparing the heart to receive the flame, the polishing of the mirror, the clearing of the vessel, the waiting for the sun to choose when to shine. That is the first whisper of the hidden flame. Part 2. The Mirror of the Heart. If rifa is the hidden flame, then the heart is the lantern that either hides it or reveals it. Every tradition speaks of the heart, but the Sufis mean something deeper than the organ that pumps blood. They call it qalb, a word that in Arabic also means to turn, to shift, to change. The heart is not fixed like stone. It turns, it flips. It can be darkened with dust or polished into a perfect mirror. The masters say that when the heart is covered in the smoke of desires, it reflects only shadows. But when it is cleansed through remembrance and struggle, it becomes clear, and in that clarity, God himself appears. Not as an idea, not as a doctrine, but as a living presence that cannot be denied. Think of a mirror left in an abandoned room. Over the years, dust gathers on its surface, spiders weave webs across its frame, and soon it seems like just another piece of furniture. But beneath the dirt, the glass remains. All it needs is to be polished, and suddenly it reveals what was always there. That is what the Sufis mean by working on the heart. It is not creating something new. It is revealing what was always hidden beneath the layers. But here is the paradox. The polishing of the heart cannot be done with ordinary cloth. No brush, no tool, no philosophy class can clear it. The only thing strong enough to cut through the rust is the constant remembrance of God. The Sufis call it dhikr, to remember, to repeat, to breathe the divine name until it carves itself into the walls of your soul. One of the masters once said, "Your heart is like iron. Dhikr is like the fire that heats it until it can be shaped." And another said, "When the heart remembers, the whole universe remembers with it." That is the mystery. When you polish your mirror, you are not only revealing yourself to God, you are revealing God to creation. And here is where the tension lies. The heart resists. The ego, the nafs, whispers constantly, trying to keep the mirror clouded. It loves the dust, because dust means you can pretend you are separate, in control, self-sufficient. But the heart, deep inside, longs to shine. That is the struggle every seeker faces, the battle between the self that clings to dust and the self that longs for light. The Sufis describe this as a journey through veils. At first, the veils are thick, the veil of pride, the veil of fear, the veil of desire. As you polish, one by one they are lifted. Some fall away like cobwebs, others resist like heavy curtains. But the more you persist, the thinner they become, until finally, there is nothing between you and the light. Do not be fooled, though. This is not a path of quick victories. It is a path of patience. Sometimes you will polish for years and see only more dust rising. Sometimes you will feel closer one day and further the next. That is the turning nature of the heart, but the Master's promise. If you do not stop, if you keep polishing with remembrance, one day the mirror will reveal what was hidden all along. And when that day comes, even for a moment, you will understand why all the saints, poets, and prophets spoke with fire in their voices. Because once the mirror shines, it shows only one face. And in that face, you recognize both yourself and the beloved. This is the secret the Sufis risked everything to share. Not a new religion, not a new philosophy, but the unveiling of what was always within. The mirror is waiting, the flame is waiting, and the question that echoes through the centuries is this: will you dare to polish it? Part 3. The battle with the self. Every great journey begins not with the mountains or the deserts outside, but with the wilderness inside. The Sufis tell us that the most dangerous enemy is not the tyrant on the throne, not the army at the gate, not even the devil whispering in the dark. The greatest enemy is the nafs, the self, the lower ego that clings to power, hunger, and illusion. The nafs does not shout, it whispers. It tells you that you deserve more, that you are always right, that others are beneath you. It hides behind masks of righteousness, of pride, even of false humility. And the more you feed it, the more it grows, until it covers the heart, like smoke covers a fire. One of the saints said, "The nafs is like a thief that lives in your own house. It knows where every treasure is hidden. It does not need to break the door. It is already inside." That is why the struggle against the nafs is the greatest jihad. Not the battle with swords and armies, but the lifelong war within yourself. The Sufis describe the stages of the nafs as a series of transformations. At first, it is the nafs al-amara, the commanding self. This is the part of you that craves, that demands, that pulls you toward anything that gives momentary pleasure. It is restless, hungry, insatiable. To live in this state is to be enslaved, a servant to every passing desire. But when you begin to awaken, something changes. You start to hear another voice, quieter, softer, but persistent. This is the nafs al-lawama, the self-reproaching soul. Here, you begin to regret. You feel the sting of conscience. You realize that the endless chasing does not satisfy. The mirror begins to reflect shadows of light, even if faint. If you persevere, if you keep polishing the mirror through remembrance, prayer, and struggle, you move into another stage, the nafs al-mutma'inna, the soul at peace. Here, the cravings no longer rule you. The heart is calm, steady, filled with trust. You are no longer dragged by every current. Instead, you are carried by the river of divine will. But this transformation is not automatic. It demands work, sacrifice, tears. The saints compare it to taming a wild horse. If left unchecked, the horse will throw you to the ground. But if trained, if disciplined with love and firmness, the same horse will carry you to your destination. So, it is with the nafs, and the battle never truly ends. Even the great mystics confessed that their nafs still whispered to them, still tried to deceive them. The difference is that the awakened heart learns to see through its tricks. It learns to smile at its illusions and return to remembrance. Perhaps the hardest truth of this struggle is that it cannot be fought with pride or violence. The nafs feeds on those very things. It can only be tamed by surrender, by humility, by constant awareness of God. This is why the Sufis train not only with prayer, but with service, with silence, with acts that break the ego's grip. One of the masters put it simply, "The nafs says me, God says I. As long as you say me, you will never hear the I of the divine." That is the core of the battle, to move from self-centered existence to God-centered existence. And yet, even in the struggle, there is beauty, because every battle scar on the heart becomes a doorway for light. Every fall becomes a lesson. Every defeat becomes a chance to rise stronger. The Sufis never promised an easy road. They promised a real one, a path where you will face yourself, lose yourself, and in losing, find the one who is always carrying you. This is the hidden battlefield, and it is here, in the silence of your own heart, that the real war of existence is fought and won. Part 4. The Gates of Trial. Every seeker who walks the path sooner or later discovers something unsettling. The road toward truth is not lined with flowers. It is lined with fire. It is not an escape from pain, but a deeper meeting with it. For the Sufis, trials are not signs of failure. They are signs that the door is near. Why would the path to God be covered in hardship? The masters give a simple answer: because the heart cannot be purified by comfort. The nafs thrives on ease. It becomes lazy, arrogant, satisfied when life flows without resistance. But when the fire of trial arrives, the masks are burned, the illusions are stripped away, and the heart is forced to reveal its hidden face. One saint said, "Gold is only purified by fire. So too is the soul." And another said, "If God loves a servant, he tests him because he wants to prepare him for himself." Imagine a door hidden in the desert. It is not visible at first because it is covered by storms of sand. Only when the wind rises and the storm burns your skin do you begin to see the outlines. That is what trials do. They cut through the comfort, the illusions, and reveal the passage that was always waiting. The trials come in many forms. Sometimes it is loss, a loved one taken, a dream shattered, a future collapsing into dust. Sometimes it is failure, the humiliation of watching your efforts dissolve into nothing. Sometimes it is the ache of loneliness, when every friend abandons you and every prayer feels unanswered. In each of these moments, the soul is brought face to face with its own fragility. The ego resists. It cries out, "Why me? Why now?" It searches for blame, for distraction, for escape. But the Sufis whisper another meaning. They say, "The very place you think is breaking you is the place that is remaking you." The wound is not the end. The wound is the doorway. This is why Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." He knew that what feels like collapse is often the beginning of transformation. Just as a seed must crack to release its hidden tree, so too must the heart be cracked open to release the hidden flame. But trials do more than break. They also reveal. They show you who you really are when the masks fall away. They show you what cannot be taken. Everything external may vanish: wealth, reputation, strength. But what remains is the secret center, the soul that no fire can destroy. And here lies the paradox. What you thought was punishment becomes mercy. What you thought was loss becomes gain. What you thought was the end becomes the beginning. The Sufi path does not ask you to seek suffering, but it asks you to embrace it when it arrives, to let it polish you, to let it carve away what is false. Think of the mirror again. The polishing cloth is not gentle. It scrapes, it grinds, it removes layers. But only by that friction does the surface shine. So it is with the soul. The polish of trial hurts, but it is the very hurt that reveals the hidden brilliance beneath. The masters say there are gates along the path, and each gate is guarded by a trial. Fear guards one, loss guards another, loneliness another. To pass, you must walk through. There is no bypass, no shortcut. But those who endure, who walk through the fire, find themselves standing in a space of clarity beyond anything comfort could offer. And in that space, the flame burns brighter. The mirror shines clearer. The heart learns to whisper, "It was not suffering that destroyed me. It was suffering that unveiled me." Part 5. The hidden power of humility. If the battle with the nafs is the greatest jihad, then humility is its sharpest sword. But here, humility does not mean weakness, nor self-hatred, nor pretending to be small while secretly craving to be seen. True humility is something deeper, something radiant. It is the state of a heart that has stopped demanding to be the center and has finally allowed God to shine through. The ego thrives on being noticed. It craves recognition like fire craves fuel. It whispers, "Be admired, be feared, be followed." And if you deny it applause, it will try to win it through pity or through pride. But the Sufis discovered a secret. The surest way to starve the ego is through service. Service breaks the illusion of self-importance. When you kneel to wash another's feet, when you feed the hungry without announcing it, when you sweep the floor of the gathering hall without expecting thanks, the ego has nothing to feed on. Slowly, painfully, it weakens, and in the silence it leaves behind, a strange joy appears, the joy of being nothing, so that God may be everything. One Sufi story tells of a dervish who spent years seeking visions and miracles. He fasted until his body was frail, prayed until his lips cracked, waited for the heavens to open. Yet nothing came. One day, weary and disillusioned, he entered the lodge and began sweeping the floor. In that moment, a peace unlike anything he had known descended upon him. A voice whispered in his heart, "What you sought in the sky was always waiting in the dust." That is the paradox of humility. By lowering yourself, you are raised. By serving without seeking, you are given more than you imagined. For humility is not humiliation. It is liberation from the endless hunger of the self. The Prophet himself said, "The master of a people is the one who serves them." The Sufis carried this teaching like a torch. They believed that the polishing of the heart happens not only in the silence of meditation, but in the noise of kitchens, markets, and villages, where every act of kindness becomes an act of worship. And this service does something mysterious. It not only transforms you, it transforms the world around you. A single act of hidden kindness ripples outward. A meal given in secret, a burden quietly lifted, a tear wiped away. These are not small things. They are threads of light woven into the fabric of existence. humility also protects. When the heart begins to taste the sweetness of divine presence, there is a danger. The ego may try to steal the credit. It may whisper, "You are special, you are chosen, you are higher than others." Many seekers have stumbled here, confusing the light of God for their own glow. But humility keeps the vessel empty so that it can keep receiving. The masters used to train their disciples by assigning them the lowest tasks. One would be told to clean latrines, another to beg in the streets, another to serve food while others feasted. To the outsider, it looked cruel. But the masters knew, until the ego bends, the heart cannot open. And when it finally bends, something breathtaking happens. The smallest acts become filled with divine presence. Washing a cup feels like washing your own soul. Smiling at a stranger feels like a prayer. Serving becomes sweetness, and the boundary between self and other dissolves. That is the hidden power of humility. It is not glamorous. It will not be praised in headlines or honored in monuments. But in the silence of a bowed heart, the divine light finds a place to rest. And in that resting, the flame burns steady and clear. Part 6. The Secret of Love. Every mystic, no matter their tradition, sooner or later runs into the same mystery. Beyond study, beyond discipline, beyond service, there is a force that cannot be controlled, cannot be explained, and yet it is the very key to the secret itself. The Sufis gave it one word, simple and infinite: ishq, love. This love is not the sweet sentiment sung in ordinary songs. It is not romance, nor desire, nor even the tenderness we feel toward family or friends, though those are reflections of it. This love is fire. It is hunger that does not end. It is the ache that makes the lover restless, sleepless, intoxicated. It is the wound that never heals because it does not want to heal. The masters said, "Without love, the path is a desert. With love, every thorn becomes a rose." For love transforms suffering into sweetness, turns hardship into dance, and makes the impossible not only bearable, but beautiful. Rumi, the poet of fire, wrote endlessly about this. He spoke of being burned, drowned, torn apart, and yet he sang of joy. Because for him, love was the only language that could describe the encounter with God. Logic cannot reach where love runs. Reason stops at the door, but love rushes in without hesitation. To love God is to be consumed. The lover does not seek reward, does not bargain, does not ask why. The lover throws themselves into the flame willingly, joyfully, knowing that to be burned is to be purified. That is why the moth and the flame became one of the most famous Sufi symbols. The moth does not hover, calculating whether the fire is safe. It sees the light and leaps, because even in death it finds union. But here lies the paradox. To love God is also to love His creation, not selectively, not only those who please you, but all of it, the beggar and the king, the child and the elder, the friend and the enemy. Because when the mirror of the heart shines, you see that every face is His face, every soul a spark of His flame. Love is also the great dissolver of the ego. The nafs cannot survive in the fire of true love. It wants control, but love surrenders. It wants possession, but love gives itself away. It wants recognition, but love forgets itself entirely in the beloved. That is why the Master said, "Where love grows, the self dies." And yet, strangely, this death is life. For in losing yourself in love, you discover the one who was always alive within you. You realize that love was never yours. It was always His, flowing through you, burning in you, searching for its own reflection. The journey of love is not easy. It will break you, confuse you, intoxicate you. It will make you feel lost, because the ordinary maps of life cannot guide you anymore. But in that lostness, you will find a deeper compass. In the absence of control, you will find presence. This is why the Sufis are often called mad. They dance in the streets, laugh at sorrow, cry at beauty, and speak in riddles. They are drunk on something the world cannot measure. But to them, it is the only sanity. For to live without love is to live half asleep, and to live with it is to awaken fully. Love, then, is the hidden secret at the center of the secret. It is the flame behind every veil, the river beneath every desert, the breath beneath every prayer. Without it, the path is impossible. With it, the path is already complete. And so the masters whisper, do not seek to understand love. Let it burn you. Let it carry you. Let it undo you. For in the end, it is not you who loves God. It is God who loves himself through you. Part 7. The language of silence. On the path of seeking, there comes a point when words no longer suffice. Every book begins to feel like repetition, every argument like a circle that leads back to the starting point. The seeker realizes that truth cannot be trapped in letters. It must be tasted. And the taste is found not in noise, but in silence. Silence in the Sufi tradition is not mere absence of sound. It is a living presence. It is the language through which the soul hears what the ear cannot. In silence, the heart becomes a listening chamber. Every breath turns into a verse, every pause into a revelation. The masters taught their disciples to sit in silence, not as idleness, but as the most active form of worship. Be still, they said, and listen to the one who has been speaking since before the world began. For God's voice is not a thunder outside, but a whisper within, and it can only be heard when the clamor of the ego grows quiet. Think of a lake. When the wind stirs it, the surface ripples, and the reflection of the sky breaks. But when the air is still, the lake becomes a perfect mirror, showing heaven as it truly is. So it is with the heart. As long as thoughts race, desires churn, worries roar, the reflection is distorted. But in silence, the waters settle, and the truth appears clear and whole. This is why the Sufis practiced samt, the discipline of silence. They would spend hours, days, even years in retreat, not to escape life, but to hear life's true rhythm. And in that silence, something extraordinary happened. The ordinary world, the sound of wind, the crackle of fire, the beating of the heart, became a scripture of its own. One saint said, "There are words written on every leaf, every stone, every gust of wind, but only the silent can read them." He was pointing to a truth we all know instinctively. The universe itself is speaking, but the noise of our minds drowns it out. Yet silence is not always comfortable. At first, it can feel like emptiness, like absence, like loneliness. The ego resists it because it cannot perform there. It cannot impress, cannot argue, cannot boast. But if you remain, if you endure the weight of silence, it begins to change. The emptiness becomes fullness. The absence becomes presence. The loneliness becomes intimacy. For in silence, you begin to feel that you are not alone. Something stirs in the depths, a presence that is closer than breath. It does not announce itself with fanfare. It simply is. And once you taste it, even for a moment, you understand why the saints said silence is the language of God. But silence is not only for the monastery or the desert cave. The Sufis carried silence into the marketplace, the family, the crowd. They learned to cultivate an inner stillness that remained untouched even in the noise of the world. Because true silence is not external. It is the heart resting in God, no matter what surrounds it. And this silence has another gift. It teaches compassion. When you listen deeply, without rushing to respond, without filling the space with yourself, you begin to truly hear others. You hear their pain, their longing, their hidden cries. And in that listening, love grows. So silence is not the end of speech. It is the ground from which true words grow. Words born of silence carry weight, resonance, healing. Words born of ego carry only noise. That is why the Sufis spoke sparingly, but when they spoke, their words cut like lightning and healed like rain. The language of silence, then, is not something exotic. It is already within you, waiting. You only need the courage to enter it, to rest in it, to let it reshape your heart. And when you do, you will find that the flame speaks not with syllables, but with stillness. Part 8. The Ocean of Oneness. Every step on the path leads to this discovery. What you thought was separate was never separate at all. The Sufis call it Tawheed, the affirmation of divine unity. To the mind, it is a doctrine. To the tongue, it is a statement. There is no God but God. But to the heart that has been polished, it is not an idea. It is an experience so overwhelming that it erases the self who thought it was separate. The world teaches division. You and me, light and dark, sacred and ordinary, success and failure. We spend our lives drawing lines, building fences, choosing sides. But the Sufi vision dissolves those fences. It whispers that every line is illusion, every division a shadow. Beneath them all lies one ocean, infinite and indivisible. The masters used endless metaphors to describe this. They spoke of rivers flowing into the sea, drops dissolving into waves, mirrors reflecting one sun. The metaphors differ, but the point is the same. There is no other. There is only the one appearing in countless forms. Imagine looking at 1,000 lamps. Each lamp has its own shape, its own color, its own flicker. But the flame inside them is one. That is how the mystics see creation. Every person, every creature, every star is a lamp. The forms differ, the flames are the same. But this vision is not abstract. It changes everything. If every face is the face of God, how can you hate? If every voice is His voice, how can you dismiss? If every atom vibrates with His presence, how can anything be ordinary? Suddenly the beggar's hand is holy. The stranger's eyes are sacred. The very dust beneath your feet becomes a page of revelation. And here lies the tension. The ego resists oneness. It thrives on separation, because separation means comparison, and comparison means pride. I am better than him, it says. I am higher than her. But when oneness is unveiled, all hierarchies collapse. The king and the servant kneel side by side. The saint and the sinner breathe the same air. The drop cannot claim superiority over another drop when both are swallowed by the sea. This is why the experience of oneness is both blissful and terrifying. Blissful because it frees you from isolation. Terrifying because it strips you of identity. The I you defended so fiercely dissolves, and in its place, a larger I appears. Not yours, but the divine I that encompasses all. Rumi expressed it with fire. I died as mineral and became plant. I died as plant and rose to animal. I died as animal and I was man. Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? He was pointing to the truth that every form is temporary, but the life within them is one, eternal, unbroken. And yet, the masters warn, do not mistake this unity for passivity. To see oneness is not to withdraw from the world. It is to love it more fiercely, to serve it more completely, because you no longer see it as other. You see your own face in every face, your own heart in every heart. This is why the Sufi who has tasted unity does not boast of visions or miracles. He simply loves. He feeds, he forgives, he embraces, because he sees no one outside the circle of the one. The ocean of oneness cannot be described. At best, words are rafts that carry us close to its shore. But the real plunge can only be taken with the heart. And once you plunge, there is no return, because you realize there never was a you apart from it. You were always the wave. You were always the sea. Part 9. The Annihilation of the Self. Every path, every prayer, every polishing of the heart, every trial and every act of love leads here, to the edge of the final veil. The mystics call it fana, annihilation. To the mind it sounds frightening, even unbearable. Who wants to be erased? Who wants to vanish? And yet for the Sufi, this is not destruction. It is fulfillment. It is the end of separation and the beginning of real life. The self clings desperately to its identity. It says, I am this, I am that. My name, my story, my pain, my victories, this is me. It builds walls of memory and pride, convinced that without them, it will cease to exist. But the masters knew the truth. The self is a shadow. It feels solid, but it disappears when the sun rises. Fana is that sunrise. It is the dissolving of the shadow self into the light of the real. The I that struggles, that fears, that claims ownership, it melts away. And in its place, what remains is Baka, subsistence in God, the eternal presence that never dies. The paradox is this: you lose yourself, and yet for the first time you truly exist. The drop vanishes, and yet it becomes the ocean. The moth burns, and yet it becomes light. The lover disappears, and yet love itself survives. That is why the saints who experienced Fana spoke not with despair, but with ecstasy. They had touched the core of reality, and it was not emptiness, it was fullness beyond measure. Hallaj, one of the most daring mystics, cried out, Ana al-Haq, I am the truth. To the jurists, it sounded like blasphemy, but to the Sufis, it was the purest confession of Fana. The I of Hallaj had died, leaving only the divine I speaking through him. His words were not arrogance, but absence, a mirror so clear that only God's face shone. This is the destiny of every seeker who dares to walk the path to its end. It is not about gathering spiritual trophies. It is not about becoming holier than others. It is about dissolving so completely that nothing remains to boast. The saint who has tasted Fana does not say, I have achieved. He says, there is no I, there is only he. And yet, Fana is not annihilation in despair. It is annihilation in love. The lover does not fear losing themselves in the beloved. That loss is the highest joy. To say, I am nothing, is not to sink into nihilism. It is to open the door to infinity. Think of a candle lit in a room full of sunlight. The candle's flame disappears, but not because it was destroyed. It is swallowed by a greater light. So too the self disappears in the brilliance of the divine. But here lies another paradox. After Fana comes Baka, to live again, but this time as a vessel of God's will. The saint who has been annihilated returns to the world, but not as they were. They walk, they eat, they speak, but every act flows from a different center. They are no longer a drop pretending to be separate. They are the ocean moving in the form of a drop. This is the secret of the prophets and the saints. They did not come to show off power. They came to show what it means to be nothing, so that God's power could flow without obstruction. They were windows through which the infinite shone. To reach Fana is not to end your story. It is to realize that your story was never yours. It was always His. And once you awaken to that, even the idea of death loses its grip. For how can what is eternal fear what was never real to begin with? The annihilation of the self is the highest unveiling. It is the end of illusion, the collapse of every veil, the final return to the One. And in that return, the seeker discovers the truth that was waiting all along. You were never other. You were always the beloved, dreaming of yourself. Part 10. The Return with the Flame. The path does not end with Fana. The mystic does not remain dissolved forever in some distant realm, detached from the world. After annihilation comes Baka, abiding, continuing to live, but now as a reflection of the divine will. The seeker returns, but never as the same person. This return is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. Outwardly, the saint looks ordinary. He walks through markets, eats bread, shares laughter, feels sorrow. He is not surrounded by halos, nor lifted above the ground. Yet inwardly, everything has changed. The self that once demanded, compared, and claimed has been erased. In its place shines a clear space, a vessel through which God's light moves freely. The prophet himself lived this way. He built homes, raised children, fought battles, endured loss. He was fully human, yet fully surrendered. Every gesture, every word, every silence carried a weight that could move mountains because it was not his alone. It was God flowing through him. The Sufis see in this a model of Baka, to return, not as the old self, but as the mirror of the beloved. And this return carries responsibility. To taste oneness is to see the divine in all things. And once you see that, you cannot ignore suffering. You cannot despise the poor, mock the weak, or exploit the earth. For to harm another is to harm yourself, and to love another is to love God. The saint becomes a servant, not out of obligation, but out of recognition. This is why those who return from Fana often become fountains of compassion. They are not trying to impress, not seeking followers or fame. They serve quietly, yet their presence transforms. To sit near them is to feel peace seep into your bones. To hear them speak is to feel your own heart awaken. They are reminders, living signs that the hidden flame is real and waiting within everyone. But make no mistake, the return is not easy. The world still tests, still tempts, still wounds. Yet the saint carries a secret armor. The ego no longer holds the reins. They may stumble, but they do not fall into despair. They may feel sorrow, but it does not consume them. They live in the world, but the world no longer imprisons them. Think of iron once consumed by fire. When cooled, it looks ordinary again, but it has been transformed forever. It is stronger, sharper, more resilient. So too the heart after Fana. It re-enters life, but it carries the memory of the flame, and nothing can undo that. For the rest of us, the presence of such people is both invitation and challenge. It whispers, you too can polish your mirror. You too can battle your nafs. You too can step through the gates of trial, taste the wine of love, hear the language of silence, dissolve into oneness, and return carrying the flame. The path is not for a chosen few. It is inscribed in every soul. And perhaps that is the final secret. The journey was never about escaping the world, but about transforming how you see it. When the heart shines, every street becomes sacred, every face becomes a verse, every breath becomes prayer. The saint does not live above the world, but within it, carrying eternity in his chest. So the story ends where it began, with you. The hidden flame is already burning inside. The question is whether you will dare to seek it, to polish, to burn, to dissolve, to return. And as the Sufis say, do not wait. The beloved is closer than your own heartbeat. Step onto the path. The flame is waiting.